Hey there, folks, and welcome out to the Single Player Podcast. I'm your one and only host, I'm16, but I got a good show this week because we're going to be talking about the dispute over Bayonetta 3, G4 finally shuts down, Nintendo settles a labor dispute, and more. So sit back, relax, enjoy the show, and I'll be with you in a bit. Alright, folks, and we're back, and now it's time to start the show with my favorite segment, your favorite segment, everyone in the world's favorite segment. It's time for the Gaming Forecast. So let's see what's coming out in the week of October 23rd to the 29th. Okay, on October 25th, you have 4 games coming out. Dungeons of Aether for Windows, Mountain Blade 2, Bannerlord, finally coming out on Windows, PlayStation 4, 5, Xbox One, and Series X. Victoria 3 for Windows, Mac, and Linux, and Yomawari Lost in the Dark making its North American debut on Windows, Nintendo Switch, and PlayStation 4. Then on the 27th, you have 8 games coming out. Ace Angler Fishing Spirits releasing exclusively in Japan on Nintendo Switch, Aquarium also releasing exclusively in Japan for Nintendo Switch and PlayStation 4, and Decapo 4 Fortunate Departures also releasing exclusively in Japan for Nintendo Switch and PlayStation 4, Gunfire Reborn for Xbox One and Series X, Needy Streamer Overlord for Nintendo Switch, Sackboy A Big Adventure for Windows, Signalis for Windows, Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One, and Star Ocean The Divine Force for Windows, PlayStation 4, 5, Xbox One, and Series X. Then on the 28th, you have 7 games coming out. Ace Angler Fishing Spirits making its Western debut on Nintendo Switch, Bayonetta 3 for Nintendo Switch, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 for Windows, PlayStation 4, 5, Xbox One, and Series X, Crystallized for Windows, Dungeon Munchies for PlayStation 4 and 5, Resident Evil Reverse for Windows, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One, and Yomawari Lost in the Dark making its European debut for Windows, Nintendo Switch, and PlayStation 4. And that was your gaming forecast. Some interesting stuff there. Definitely looking forward to Bayonetta 3. And by the way, when I say Bannerlord finally coming out, I mean it. Do you guys realize how long that game's been in development? No joke. It was announced back in 2012. Yeah, it's been in development for 10 years. So, glad to see it's finally coming out. And anyway, with that being said, let us move on to our first topic. Okay, so for our first story, we got to talk about Bayonetta 3. Oh boy. Now, as you all know, it's coming out next week. I can't wait for it. But it seems that there's a bit of a controversy that's sprung up regarding the game. And it's regarding the character herself, Bayonetta. You see, for many years, since the very first game, Bayonetta has been voiced by Helena Taylor. In fact, she also played the character in the anime that came out around, 2009, 2010-ish? Okay. Well, unfortunately, it appears that she's not returning to the character for Bayonetta 3. Instead, she's being replaced with Jennifer Hale. Now, Jennifer Hale is a longtime voice actress. She's been around 20 years? You know, I remember she was the voice of Samus Aran in the Prime games. Granted, it wasn't really a speaking role, it was just grunts, but still, she was the voice of Samus. She was the voice of Dr. Naomi Hunter in the Metal Gear Solid series. Not in the very first one, because I think it was a different voice actress in the first game. She came in for Twin Snakes, and then Metal Gear Solid 4. So, she's been around for a long time. She's done numerous characters. I think she also did FemShep in Mass Effect. I think, yeah, I wasn't really into Mass Effect. I'm gonna be honest with you, but anyway, longtime voice actress, but she's gonna be taking on the role of Bayonetta. Well, we didn't really know why for the Switch, but according to Helena Taylor, it's because apparently she auditioned for the role, and when Platinum approached her about reprising her character, she's claiming that she was only offered $4,000 flat rate to play Bayonetta. Oof. That is just that's pathetic. That is downright fucking pathetic. $4,000? Are you kidding me? Platinum. Crying out loud. Come on. And so she went on Twitter and she put out 3 videos talking about this. Now, I'm not going to do them quote for quote, but it is, she does talk about some very interesting things and such about how after she was made the offer, she tried to talk to Hideki Kamiya directly. She wrote a letter to him and she heard back and all that kind of stuff. But ultimately she claims that they were dead set on 4,000 and that was it. Now, of course, this has caused quite a stir on Twitter. You had a whole bunch of people calling for a boycott of Bayonetta 3. And in fact, Helena Taylor did exactly that. She is asking for fans to boycott the game. Now, it sounds bad. It sounds like a terrible situation. Okay? But here's the thing. The more I kept thinking about it, the more it just... I don't know. It sounded very fishy. Here's the thing. First off, we're only hearing one side of the story. Okay, the only side we're hearing is directly from Helena Taylor. That's it. We're not hearing from Platinum or Nintendo. I don't think they've put out any statements thus far. Okay, so we're only hearing one side of the story. On top of that, she also didn't really present any evidence, okay? Here's the thing. Obviously, there's contracts that go back and forth. There's letters. There's emails, all that kind of stuff, okay? She could have presented something to kind of back up what she's saying here. But she doesn't really. And I just kind of get that feeling that there's just something fishy about this. Now, understand, I'm not outright claiming that she's lying. Because that would be dickish. Okay? And really, it's like I said, I'm just saying we don't really have the entire story here. We're only hearing from one side, and that's really it. So I'm not accusing her of lying. I'm not accusing her of anything like that. I'm just saying I just get a feeling that we're not exactly hearing the entire story. All right? The other thing that gets me is that at the end of the 3rd video, she doesn't just target Nintendo and Platinum. She actually goes after Jennifer Hale. Now, keep in mind, Hale's just an actress. You know, that she's not on the development or the business side of things. They just simply hired her to voice the actor. But she kind of went on this short rant where she's like, you don't have the right to call yourself the voice of Bayonetta. You don't have the right to sign merchandise, which... I don't know, like, I mean, if they hired her to play the character, she kind of does, you know what I'm saying? Like, you have the right too, because, hey, you were the voice of Bayonetta for the vast majority of the franchise's history, but that doesn't mean she doesn't have to. It'd be like, imagine if when they swapped, in Metal Gear Solid 5, they swapped David Hayter for, was it Kiefer Sutherland? Like, imagine if David Hayter said, well, you don't have the right to call yourself Snake. Well, technically he does. Because, yeah, he's voicing the character, he's voicing Big Boss, Snake, whatever you want to call him, in the 5th game, you know? So it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, why go after Jennifer Hale? If this is about money, why would you go after her? You know what I'm saying? Like, the more I'm thinking about this, the more it just doesn't sound right. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not crazy. You know, please tell me I'm not crazy here. I'm not the only one who's seeing this shit. Okay, it comes off to me when she goes after Jennifer Hale. It kind of just I kind of just get the feeling that she's I'm detecting a hidden jealousy, and I understand that you were replaced by another actress. I can understand the jealousy part, but it just, if it was, and the thing is, if it was about money, why not negotiate a higher pay? Why not go back and forth with Platinum? Why not go? Why? I mean, I'm sure you have an agent. You can go to your agent and be like, I'm pretty sure they're the ones handling all the business shit. If you don't, I'd be absolutely shocked. Especially someone who, as she said, she has 7 years of training. You're telling me that in that amount of time you didn't get an agent? Okay. Why didn't she go to her agent and try to negotiate a higher payout? Okay. This is the thing. You see where I'm going with this. Okay. There's just a lot of unanswered questions here and a lot of things that just kind of irks me a bit. Again, I'm not saying she's outright lying. I'm not saying, because again, I can't prove that. I'm just saying I'm going by what I'm seeing here. And what I'm seeing is not an entire picture. Of course, you have people on Twitter, they've already, they've already just kind of like decided that she's in the right. And I'm like, again, we don't know the entire story. So that's all I'm going to say on the entire subject. You could call me an asshole for saying that. You could say I'm a piece of shit. Whatever you want. But I'm just looking at what I'm seeing here. And what I'm seeing is not the entire picture. Clearly, there's a lot going on behind the scenes that we don't know about, that maybe she's not letting us on. Maybe she doesn't even know. Maybe there's a side of the story that she even doesn't know about. I'm just saying there's just a lot about this that's just very iffy. Now, if what she's saying here is entirely true, then yeah, it's disgusting behavior. Platinum and Nintendo should be absolutely ashamed of themselves for offering such a low pay for a voice acting gig, especially to someone who's been doing this, been working with this character for over a decade. That's not how you treat someone who's been working with you for that long of time. Until then, I'm going to remain a little bit more skeptical until we have all sides of the story of this thing. Because again, we're only hearing one side. We're hearing only from Taylor and no one else. And so I kind of just feel like we should wait until we hear from both Nintendo, Platinum, and maybe even Jennifer Hale about what exactly is going on here. Anyway, guys, I'm going to take a short break, and we'll be right back after this.
Wii U.
彼女の名はベヨネッタ。魔女なんです。しなやかに、華麗に、ギリギリで避けて時を止める。魔女ですから。ギリギリで避けて容赦なく無慈悲に痛めつける。魔女ですから。魔人だって呼び出せる。魔女ですから。Wii U ベヨネッタ2前作も入ってますから。
All right, folks, and we're back. And first up on our next round of stories, we got to talk about G4. Oh, boy. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Of course, this past week, news came out that G4 TV is officially shutting down for the second time. Recently, Deadline got their hands on a memo, unreleased memo, I should say, from the chairman and CEO of Comcast Spectator, Dave Scott. And he says, and I quote, "Team, as you know, G4 was reintroduced last year to tap into the popularity of gaming. We invested to create the new G4 as an online and TV destination for fans to be entertained, be inspired, and connect with gaming content. Over the past several months, we worked hard to generate that interest in G4, but viewership is low, and the network has not achieved sustainable financial results. This is certainly not what we hoped for, and as a result, we have made the very difficult decision to discontinue G4's operations effective immediately. I know this is disappointing news, and I'm disappointed too. I want to thank you and everyone on the G4 team for the hard work and commitment to the network. Our human resource team is reaching out to you to provide you with support, discuss other opportunities that may be available, and answer any questions you may have. Thank you again for all your hard work for G4, Dave Scott." Now, here's the thing. This was, of course, a leaked memo. So none of this had actually gone out to G4 yet. And many of them learned about it through Twitter. When Wario64 tweeted it out, what's his name? The Completionist actually tweeted that this was the first time he had ever heard about this. So, yeah, here's the thing. I was a little hopeful that with Russell Aarons and Blair Herter gone, that they would be able to salvage G4, because I don't want G4 to go away. I like old school G4. G4 like 2002 to maybe like 2005, 2006 was awesome. It was great. And if they kind of brought that back and maybe added some new shows, maybe returned some shows from Tech TV, that would be awesome as well. But unfortunately, that's not what we got. What we got was just absolute terrible revivals of Attack of the Show and X-Play. Okay? I've gone on rants about it before. X-Play was basically a 2-hour live stream where they're talking about a game for 20 minutes. It's not interesting. It's the personalities there were definitely not entertaining at all. You have Adam Sessler, who just doesn't have the energy he had to carry the show like he did 20 years ago. And the fact that he doesn't seem like he really cares about gaming at all that much these days. Okay, you go on his Twitter account, all he does is bitch and moan about politics all day. Dude is terminally online. All right. So what I think happened was with Aarons and Herter gone, they looked at the damage. They looked at how much what they could actually salvage, and they realized it was too late. The damage had already been done. It was too great to actually salvage and save. And so their best option was to shut down the entire network. And if that's the case, it's unfortunate, but it had to happen. It's one of those things where it's like, it is what it is. You can't do anything to salvage it. And obviously the cause of this is you have numerous things going on. It's not just Frosk, okay? Look, I get it. Her entire rant was just, that turned off a lot of people. It turned me off, definitely. But the thing is, it wasn't just that. It was the fact that the shows themselves weren't good. They weren't properly done. You also have the fact that they have a full set and a cast and crew and everything. They're trying to do it like an actual professional TV show. But the problem is, and that shit was not inexpensive, okay? You also have the fact that they're competing against YouTubers, okay? Not other professional networks. We're talking people in a room in their house with like a shelf of video games talking about video games, okay? Next to no budget, all right? That's what they're competing against. And so because of that, they're pumping money into all of this with personalities that nobody likes, no one can identify with. At least with a YouTuber, you're listening to someone who is also a fellow gamer, all right? I'm a gamer. I collect video games. I play them constantly, okay? I'm somewhat relatable, maybe, I don't know. But I'm just saying, I'm not some professional person, okay? This isn't a professional thing. This entire podcast is a one-man show, all right? But I'm not a multi-billion-dollar corporation, okay? I'm not losing money on this thing, also because I see this as a hobby. So when it comes right down to it, they're spending millions of dollars on sets and equipment and personalities that nobody likes, and they're not getting the enough required viewers to really justify keeping G4 up. It wasn't bringing in enough revenue to keep the whole thing going. So it's sad, but it was inevitable, okay? I was hoping they could salvage it, but unfortunately I was completely wrong in that situation. So honestly, at this point, the only way, I think the best thing to do right now is to just remember G4, okay? Watch the old shit from like 2002 to 2014, because you know what? That stuff, it won't insult you. It's quick, it's to the point, and it's still pretty entertaining. So anyway, with that being said, let's move on to our next story. Alright, next up, we got some news coming out of Konami. No, it's not that news. I'm going to be saving that for later. No, instead, it's something even far, far, far worse. You see, it seems that if you go to their website, they're now hiring for Web3 and Metaverse development personnel. Yeah. So the listing says this. Konami Digital Entertainment announces that we will be recruiting a wide range of talent for system construction and service development to provide new experiences such as Web3 and Metaverse. We have been conducting research and development to incorporate the latest technology into games and contents, and plan to launch a service where players can trade their in-game NFTs through a unique distribution platform using blockchain. Oh, fucking Konami. Oh, goddamn. Did you not learn anything from Ubisoft? Like, Ubisoft kind of abandoned NFTs. I think they did, because they tried to do the whole NFTs in their game thing, and that kind of failed. But, folks, here's the thing, though. All right? If you are a Web3 and Metaverse development person, then do not go for this shit. On top of that, when and if Konami decides to launch their NFT service, for the love of God and all that is right in humanity, do not support it. All right? To quote Razorfist, because I think he said it best, the opposite of love isn't hate, it's apathy. All right? When Konami decides to launch this shit, please, for the love of God, do not support it. Do not buy it. Just pay no attention to it. Act like it doesn't exist. All right? I think that's like the best advice I could give to when it comes to this shit. You know, I think one of the problems when it comes to a lot of this shit that nickels and dimes you is that over the years we've been complacent. You know, when we were first introduced to DLC, I remember first hearing about DLC and thinking, oh wow, it's going to be like, you know, buying expansion packs for your console games, because PC games had expansion packs. So I thought, oh wow, it's going to be the same way. It didn't. Same thing with microtransactions, same thing with loot boxes. I think gamers over the years, well, not with me, but I think gamers over the years just kind of like thought like, oh, well, nothing bad will ever come out of this. This will never be abused. And then what happens? It gets abused. I think the best thing to do when it comes to NFTs is to put your foot down on that shit. Don't buy it. Tell the publisher, I don't want this shit. And the best way to do that is to simply close your wallet. Don't give them your money. All right? So all I could say is this, Konami, this is just back out of this shit. All right? It's not going to work. If it's not working for Ubisoft right now, it ain't going to work for your shit. So anyway, with that being said, let's move on to our next story. All right, and for our next story, we got to talk about Splatoon 3, which actually is doing really well right now. In fact, a couple of days ago, I heard that last month, it actually accounted for 69% of Japan's gaming retail sales. So yeah, it's doing really well over there. And of course, we've got a lot of streamers who are playing it. And it seems that one VTuber group, however, is a little bit of a hot water over one of their own streams. So this one group called the Shinso-gumi had to recently apologize because of one of their streams showing pornographic material. I'm not kidding. So basically what they did, I'm not sure how they pulled it off, because the stream itself was taken off of YouTube, so you can't watch it anymore. I tried finding it so I could get an understanding of what the hell was being shown, but apparently what happened was they decided to color code their opponent's ink to be transparent with hardcore porn playing in the background. So they had to be careful with the ink that they sprayed around, because the more they did, the more it would show it and such. You get where I'm going with this? And yeah, it seems that not only did YouTube not like them, but Nintendo was completely pissed off at them about it. And honestly, I'm not surprised, because Nintendo's a family-friendly company. They want to keep that image. I mean, after all, remember when Animal Crossing New Horizons came out? There were people who someone had created a tool that allowed you to convert artwork into pixel art that could be then put into the game, and people were putting hardcore porn on their islands and such, and Nintendo obviously didn't like that, and so I think they updated the game to remove any support for that tool. But yeah, honestly, I'm not surprised, and really, it's one of those things where it's like you're not just playing a Nintendo game, you're also playing a game that was designed for everyone, including kids, to play. After all, the game is rated E10+. So yeah, there's a danger there that you're going to be getting kids watching it. Look, I get it. I think it's a little funny because it kind of reminds me of some of the adult puzzle games that came out like in the early 90s. But at the same time, it's one of those things where, like, if you're going to do something like that, it better be an 18-only stream. It must be one of those where it's like you can only be an adult to actually view something like that. And just putting that out on YouTube, yeah, obviously that's going to go against guidelines. So yeah, I'm sure that the VTubers involved have basically been reprimanded by the company that owns them, and you know, they're obviously not going to be pulling that shit again. So anyway, guys, I'm going to take a short break, and we'll be right back after this.
My name is Dave Kramer, and I'm the world record holder for fastest completion of Parking Challenge number 5 in 18-wheeler. It took me months of daily playing to whittle my time down. On my days off, while my wife and son were sleeping, I poured 8+ hours of non-stop gameplay. For some reason, I picked up this game very quickly. I mean, I'm usually pretty good at driving and racing games, but there was something about this. I guess it was just unique. My favorite movie is a no-brainer, Star Wars. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and have been ever since I saw Episode 4 back in '77. I basically play games because it's kind of an escape. The same reason a lot of people read books or watch movies. The way I explain it best to those who don't like games is this. You watch movies, right? What could possibly be better than watching a movie and getting to be the lead? You can control the outcome, and you can try things in games you never could get away with in real life because it might cause some harm.
Awesome record! You must be a pro! New record!
All right, folks, and we're back in. First up on our next round of stories, we got to talk about Nintendo because it seems that there's been a labor dispute with them that's been settled. So anyway, a worker of Nintendo called Mackenzie Clifton, who was employed through another company called Aston Carter, filed a labor dispute in April with the National Labor Relations Board, alleging that they had been fired for supporting a labor union. They claimed that they had brought it up during a meeting and was promptly fired for what Nintendo claimed was a non-disclosure agreement violation. Now, of course, Clifton denies this and went straight to the National Labor Relations Board, and they've been kind of going back and forth. Well, they've reached a settlement. So basically, here's what's going down. Aston Carter is going to take liability and pay over $25,000 in back pay damages and interest. As for Nintendo, they have agreed to post notice in email and on-site at its office informing workers of their rights under the National Labor Relations Act, which does state that workers will not be stopped from discussing a union, exercising the right to raise issues or complaints, and that they will not be fired for union support. So there you go. Congratulations to the employees of Nintendo that was trying to get unionization, or at least discuss unionization. In my humble opinion, I'm going to be honest. I'm not exactly the biggest fan of unions. Okay, I worked a union job. I hated it. Those bastards took money out of my paycheck and did absolutely nothing. I understand that's not every union. But the one I worked under, it was horrible. It was terrible. Because, for the most part, they don't give a shit. As far as they're concerned, they're legally allowed to skim money off your paycheck. So they don't give a shit about what happens to you, They like to LARP about how they defend the working class. In reality, they don't care. But that's just my opinion. I understand not every union is exactly like that. So anyway... once again, congratulations to the employees of Nintendo on winning this entire thing. And who knows, maybe they'll have better working conditions and actually be represented by a better union than whatever the fuck I had. So anyway, with that being said, let's move on to our next story. Speaking of disputes, next up we have an update on the entire Bayonetta 3 thing. Oh yeah, this thing is not going to stop. So... Jennifer Hale has officially put out a statement about the entire thing on Twitter. She says, and I quote, "With regard to Bayonetta 3, as a longtime member of the voice acting community, I support every actor's right to be paid well and have advocated consistently for this for years. Anyone who knows me or has followed my career will know that I have great respect for my peers, and that I am an advocate for all members of the community. I'm under an NDA and not at liberty to speak regarding this situation. My reputation speaks for itself. I sincerely ask that everyone keep in mind that this game has been created by an entire team of hardworking, dedicated people, and I hope everyone will keep an open mind about what they've created. Finally, I hope that everyone involved may resolve their differences in an amicable and respectful way. With love and respect to you all, Jennifer Hale." Now, I gotta say, out of this entire thing, that's probably the best response I've heard thus far. And really, she's staying neutral in the entire thing because, as she said, she's under NDA. She can't talk about this shit. I've signed NDAs myself, okay? I know exactly what it's like. You want an example? Because, one of the movies that I saw that I signed an NDA for came out in May, and I'm sure all of you saw it. Top Gun Maverick. Yeah, I saw that back in 2019. I was one of the first test audiences, okay? I had to keep my mouth shut about that for like 2.5 years. It wasn't easy, but I was able to do it. So I know what it's like to sign an NDA, and honestly, this was the best response that I think anyone could have come up with regarding this entire thing. But we also have another interesting response, and this time it's coming from Bloomberg. So Jason Schreier posted an article about the entire thing, and unfortunately I'm blocked by him on Twitter. I don't know why. I'm not sure if I've ever interacted with him before, and if I did, I completely forgot about it. But apparently he has supposedly some insight in on the whole thing. And according to him, his own sources from within Platinum Games, unnamed, by the way, said that apparently they attempted to rehire Helena Taylor as Bayonetta and offered her $3,000 to $4,000 per session, which would have been a total of 5 sessions. Add it all up, and that's around $15,000 to $20,000 for the entire game. Well, Taylor, however, didn't like that. She asked for a 6-figure sum in residuals, which was, of course, declined, and Platinum apparently went off and started looking for another actress. They even offered her a cameo, but for whatever reason, she declined it. Anyway, apparently Taylor has already responded to this, describing the claims as an absolute lie, and that their Platinum is trying to save their asses and the game. And she also went on saying, and I quote, "I would like to put this whole bloody franchise behind me, quite frankly, get on with my life in the theater." End quote. Now, what's interesting about this whole thing is, like I said, these are unnamed sources, so you have to take it with a grain of salt. But what I thought was interesting is VGC put out an article themselves, and according to them, their own sources within Platinum Games corroborated the exact same story. They said the same thing. Okay, they had sought to hire Taylor for at least 5 sessions that would have each cost $3,000 to $4,000 for 4 hours, and that the $15,000 to $20,000 was a significant increase from her pay from the last game. So I find that very interesting. Rarely does that ever happen, where you're essentially hearing the exact same stories from 2 separate sources from the same company, but to 2 separate outlets. Rarely does that ever happen. So I think it kind of, I'm not saying it's 100%, but I do think that's a little bit more realistic. I would tend to possibly believe that. I know it's coming from Jason Schreier, but again, there's something about that where it's like, okay, I could actually kind of believe that. I can see that. This is why I didn't jump on the whole hate on Platinum Games when it came to this whole thing. And I didn't honestly side with Taylor immediately, because there was just something about the whole thing that just sounded iffy. It didn't sound right. We're hearing one side of the story, and you damn well know that you're not going to be hearing, something that's objective. You're going to hear a side that's very much one-sided, obviously. But once again, like I said, those are unnamed sources. There's no official confirmation from Platinum or Nintendo on this entire thing. And so I'll say this. Until Nintendo and Platform confirm something, I take those sources with a grain of salt, but they do sound very reasonable. You know what I'm saying? They sound like they would actually be legit. Like you hear some rumors and it's like, okay, that sounds like bullshit. And in this case, this actually does sound kind of like plausible. So, like I said, we're just going to have to wait and see more information come out of it. I'd say wait until there's official confirmation from Nintendo and Platinum on this entire thing. But, yeah, this looks messy. This looks really, really messy, and it might even go to court. Who knows? So, anyway, with that being said, let's move on to our next story. Alright, and for our last story, we have an update from EA, because it appears they've announced that some of their games will be shutting down their online services. That's right, it appears that from now until January, several games will be shutting down over the course of several months. So first off, on October 20th, so tomorrow, Army of Two, the 40th Day, The Devil's Cartel, and Dragon Age Origins will be all shutting off. On November 9th, then it will be followed by Command & Conquer Red Alert 3, 3 Tiberium Wars, and Kane's Wrath, and Mercenaries 2 World in Flames. November 30th will be Onrush, and then January 19th of next year will be Mirror's Edge, NBA Jam on Fire Edition, Gatling Gears, and Shank 2. So if you were playing any of those games, which I kind of highly doubt, since many of them are actually pretty old. Many of them are like 15 years old. In fact, I think Mercenaries 2 goes back to what, like 2006, 2007? So, yeah, pretty old there. If you're playing any of these games online, then you will be unable to play them on those dates. Folks, there's a reason why I always say you should fear an all-digital future, and this is why. if you have them physically, you will still be able to play them on single player, but you will not be able to play them online. It sucks, but it's inevitable. You know what I'm saying? It's going to happen regardless. I wish that the servers would continue. I wish, heck, you know what? Why don't they just update the games to allow private servers? Why not do that? Why not allow people to set up their own servers? You're not going to be supporting it anymore. Just release an update, release a patch saying, hey, by the way, if you want to run your own servers to play online, here, now you could do it yourself. Simple as that. They could have just done that, but no, EA can't be bothered with it. Anyway, guys, I'm going to take a short break, and we'll be right back after this.
Are you one of us? 16-bit graphics, or one of them, 8-bit? Us. CD game sound. Them, not. Us. Them. Us. Turbo Express Portable. Us. Buy TurboGrafx 16 now and get one of 38 selected games free.
Alright folks, and that's it for this week. I want to thank you all for listening. Remember, if you liked any of the music in this week's episode, there will be links in the description. Also, there is a playlist of all the music I've played in the past. I have to update it. I know I keep forgetting to do so, but I'll leave a link in that in the description as well. And that's it. Once again, I want to thank you all for listening. I'll see you next week, and remember to keep gaming.